is 1. B is, can you turn that off for me? I need you to take that off. B is -6. C is +8. So X equals the opposite of B. B's negative, so we're going to put a +6. And that's divided by 2 times A, and A is 1. So you should get 6 divided by 2, which is 3. All right, who had that? The axis of symmetry. All right, good. So I'm going to put that in the middle. And then I'm going to type that in. So I'm not going to write it over and over again. You all get the picture. That's going to give you the other 5 y values. So the 5 y values, I should know this. Okay, I know that these two are 0. And then I think, is this -1? And then 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph that. So that's my graph. That's what you got? Any questions about the graph? All right, so the vertex is the lowest point, which is at 3, -1. And let me zoom into the graph for a moment. So this is my x-axis. So it looks like I have 2 points on that green line. And where are those 2 points? +2 and +4. So your domain is all real numbers. Is this parabola, does it have a minimum or a maximum? A minimum, good. So looking at this, the lowest y value in this column is -1, and the highest is infinity. And that would be your range. All right, so now let's go to the next page. Let's talk about tables real quick. No calculator needed. So looking at your homework 2, the last question on the back, which is number 6, is looking at a table. So let's talk about how you do that. So we're going to ignore the fact that this is here for now. I'll ignore that because the only thing you're going to have is a table. So let's look at the table. We're still in our notes. We're on page 11. Okay, so I'm going to write this at the top. So it's asking for the solution. So can you write that? A solutions occur when, thank you, the y value changes sign. So Faith, I think you're next if you want to fill it out. And when I say changes sign, I'm saying when it changes from a positive to a negative. So go ahead and copy that down and then we'll talk about it. So everything we've done to this point has had a solution that was a whole number. But these are questions where the solution is a decimal. So the solution is a decimal. It's not a whole number. So let's look at your y value. So does everyone see how this first one is negative? And then after that, the y value becomes positive. Stephanie, can you sit up for me? I'm right here in front of you. Look, literally. You're just going to go sleep right next to me. So then, oh my God. So then this is positive. These are all positive. And then it's negative at the bottom. So would you all agree with that? I'm just looking at the y value. Okay. So when it changes sign, that's where we have a solution. So do you notice that right here is negative and then it changes to a positive? Does everybody see that? What that tells me is that I have a solution somewhere between -1 and -2. I don't know what it is, but one of my solutions will fall between -1 and -2. It could be -1.2, -1.5, -1.6, but it's something between -1 and -2 because my y value changed sign. When you keep going down, you see it's positive. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. It doesn't change until you get to the bottom. And what are the x values where it changes? Between what two numbers? 4 and 5. So in between 4 and 5, I have another solution. It could be 4.2, it could be 4.3, it could be 4.8. It's 4 point something. It's not a whole number. So basically, you're looking at your y values and watching it change sign. And if it doesn't change sign, then that means that your solution either is not in the table or it doesn't have a solution at all. Yes, Yanni?
So when it changes sign on the y, the solution's the x sign?
Yeah. Solutions are always x. When we talk about a solution, it's always x.
So when the sign changes on the y value, it does.
Yes, so let's talk about that a little bit. So here's your graph. So would you agree that if this is my x-axis, that numbers below here, the y values are negative, and that all these numbers are positive? The y values. Would you agree with that? Yes, no, hello, anybody?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm talking about the y, not x. Up here, all of my y values, these numbers right here are positive. And then down here, my y values are negative. So in order for me to change, to go from the pink zone to the green, anytime I go from the pink to the green, what do I have to cross through? The x-axis. So that's why when you see your sign change from a positive to a negative or from a negative to a positive, the only way it can do that is if it crosses this axis, which means that there is a solution. It's not a whole number. And if you look at the graph, you can see it crossed somewhere between here. I don't know what that number is. We would have to do more work to figure out that number, but we're not there yet. So let's look at the next table. Don't look at the graph because you won't have the graph. I only want you to look at the table. Only looking at the table. I'm almost finished. Just if y'all could just lift up your heads, I promise you I am almost finished. I promise you. Promise you. Almost done. So look at our y values. So y is negative here. What about the next one? Negative. What about the next y value? What about the next y value? Stop right there. I changed sign. The y value changed from a negative to a positive. The only way that can happen is if it crosses x. So that means that I have a solution somewhere between 0 and 1. I don't know what that solution is, but it's a number between 0 and 1. It's a decimal though. 0.2, 0.3, 0.47, we don't know. But it is a number between 0 and 1. So now let's go back to our Y table. This is positive. What about the next one? What about that 2? Positive. What about the 1 though? So pause right there. You see how I made another sign change. So what are the Y, somebody besides Syra, what are the X values in which my second 0 occurs? Somebody besides Syra or Brandon? 3 and 4. So somewhere between, it's also another one between 3 and 4. I don't know what it is, but it's a number between 3 and 4. All right, so that's actually all for today, but I want to show you something in your homework. If you could take it out real quick. Mariana, you can go ahead and fill out a pass. I think you're next.